Coming up on Oxford Weekly News, Miami student government elections are around the corner, and you'll hear from the candidates.
But first, a BuzzFeed famous comedian is creating a buzz on Miami's campus. Is his message sending mixed signals?
Welcome to Oxford Weekly News. I'm Sarah Muir.
And I'm Greta Morris. Thanks for joining us. Matt Bellassai's biggest hit came from getting drunk at his desk. But does his visit to Miami send mixed signals about our drinking culture? I caught up with Miami officials to get the scoop.
He's best known for drinking at work and complaining.
Let's drink.
Matt Bellassai, a well-known comedian for his viral BuzzFeed series Wine About It, recently visited Miami's Hall Auditorium.
And we're just so excited to be able to have access to a comedian that's this well known, and that we're going to be able to bring him right to the students for such a good deal. We're so excited about that.
His visit comes just weeks after a high number of alcohol-related arrests and hospitalizations. Mike Kerm, Dean of Students, said the university works hard to ensure their programming aligns with Miami's values, something they considered when inviting Bellassai.
Our message at Miami is about alcohol use is not really one of abstinence. We've learned a little bit from kind of the safe sex movement, which has been really successful. And so we think in terms of we're trying to find a condom approach to alcohol.
Bellassai's performance was titled Why I'll Be Single Forever and focused mainly on his relationship status and less on his well-known drinking habits. As far as Miami's drinking culture, Kerm said the administration is working hard to change the perception of alcohol.
I wonder why we can't instead embrace a message that's much more along the lines of work hard and play smart.
While Miami Activities and Programming declined to say how much it cost to bring Bellassai to campus, his speaking fees were paid through student ticket sales and student fee dollars. We requested an interview with Bellassai, which he declined, citing a busy schedule.
On Saturday, February 25th, Miami University's police department responded to sexual assault and battery incidents on campus. A non-student female was sexually assaulted by a male student in a Hahn Hall dorm room. The assault was reported to the university police later that morning. An hour before the incident, a female student reported to the MUPD she had been sexually battered by an acquaintance in an Etheridge Hall dorm room. Police say there were a total of 5 sexual assaults reported in the month of February.
A man was flown to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center after a fight at the Woods Bar on February 25th. Oxford police say the man and 2 other people were kicked out of the bar after getting into a fight. Police were called around 10:30 and they found the man unresponsive and seriously injured. The man was visiting from Chicago. Oxford Police Department is continuing to investigate.
There have been 3 bomb threats at Talawanda High School since January. Katie McDonald joins us with the story. Katie?
Thanks, Sarah. Law enforcement and school officials take these threats very seriously each and every time, exhausting all available resources and using the best training possible. I took a look at just how Talawanda schools handle these type of threats. When Talawanda High School recognizes a threat, their emergency plan begins almost immediately, with school officials contacting the Oxford Police Department, who can be on scene in less than 3 minutes. However, the weight of a threat like this calls for serious resources, according to Oxford Police Chief John Jones.
It is definitely disruptive to the day because not only do you have the first responders who are coming, we have explosive detection canines coming from the region who are, if they're responding from Cincinnati, they're coming lights and siren up here. And so that poses a danger to people on the roadways.
These 3 bomb threats at the high school did not prove to be legitimate, but it causes concern for everyone involved.
Unfortunately, it's such a disruption to the school day, to teachers who are trying to educate them, to the parents. Parents understandably are upset, worried about the safety of their children. In all these cases, there was no devices found, so their safety was never in jeopardy. But it's hard, when your child's texting you from the school saying they're scared or that there's a threat. What does that mean?
With the seriousness of these threats, Holly Morris, Director of Communications and Public Engagement at Talawanda, sees the positive moving forward. Knowing that safety is provided with the emergency plan, Talawanda can rely on their partners coming to deal with the crisis and knowing their communication tools work.
Police are investigating an unusual theft at McCullough Hyde Hospital on February 21st. Kitchen equipment valued between $5,000 and $20,000 was stolen from the hospital's loading dock. Police were provided with surveillance photos of a man in a green truck and a woman in a white truck, arriving and leaving with the equipment in 5 to 7 minutes later. OPD is continuing the investigation with the license plate information from the photos.
Miami University has confirmed that an on-campus male student is sick with the mumps. The health center declined to comment about where the student lives on campus, but has reached out to all students who may have come into contact with him. Last year, the CDC reported over 5,000 mumps cases across the United States. Students are encouraged to call the health center at 529-3000 with any questions. Go to the Ohio Department of Health's website for more information about the disease.
There are a growing number of Chinese-operated businesses in Uptown Oxford. Here to explain why is Skylar DeBelco. Skylar?
If you've been uptown lately, you may have noticed a growth in international cuisine. I spoke to the city's Economic Development Director, Alan Kiger, about new business opportunities in Uptown Oxford.
In recent years, Miami University has seen a surge in the number of international students that call Oxford home. Between 2013 and 2014 alone, Miami's Office of International Student and Scholar Services recorded nearly a 37% increase in international students and a 39% increase in students coming from Asia. This coincides with the increase of restaurants in Uptown Oxford owned by people with international backgrounds. Oxford's Economic Development Director, Alan Kiger, says that most of this activity has been from 2013 on.
I would say the percent of businesses owned by folks with Asian background are much higher than the percentage of Asian people in our community.
In fall of 2016, international students represented roughly 10% of students enrolled at the university's Oxford campus, with the majority from China. However, roughly 16% of restaurants in Uptown Oxford are owned by people with Chinese backgrounds. This year alone, Uptown Oxford is welcoming 4 new Chinese-owned establishments, including Pixo Karaoke, a fitness center, an international market, and a new restaurant. However, some students are hesitant to visit some of these establishments.
I'm intimidated by the Chinese restaurants in Oxford because I can't even read what's in the windows because it's all written in Chinese, which doesn't make me feel very comfortable walking inside.
Other students have expressed similar concerns.
I'll go into a Chinese restaurant and I won't be able to read the menu, so I try to ask the owner, whoever's working, if they could tell me what's on the menu, and they kind of just stare at me and speak in Chinese, which I clearly don't understand, so I end up having to just leave.
According to Kiger, Oxford does not require business owners to apply for permits to operate within the city. However, they are still required to file with the state.
Oxford students and community members can check out these new establishments this year. Back to you, Sarah.
Starting in the fall, Miami University will return to 15-minute breaks between classes. Miami last had this schedule in the fall of 2013. Class times will still begin at 8:30. The registrar also told Oxford Weekly News that it is putting together a plan that will allow students to schedule for an entire year of classes at once. Coming up on Oxford Weekly News, you'll meet the candidates running for Associated Student Government.
And learn more about some interesting projects happening at Miami and in the Oxford community. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Oxford Weekly News. I'm Sarah Muir. Campaigns for student body president and vice president are underway on Miami's campus. I was able to sit down with the candidates to talk about their ideas. Primary elections for student body president and vice president will take place March 13th and 14th. 5 pairs of candidates are running this year, each bringing different platforms for what they'd like to see changed on Miami's campus.
What we want to bring is creating opportunities for students and starting that now. You know, we want to bring building Oxford. We want to get more stores uptown, a movie theater, just expanding the town and giving students a wide range of things to do on the weekends, and that's something that we both have said since our freshman year.
I think career services is like pretty much our main concern.
So basically what we want to do is we want to keep career services inclusive, but we want to expand it. So we want, biology students, if they don't want to go to graduate school, we want to have the resources for them to network and be able to get jobs in other sects. And that applies all the way down the road.
We really want to see mental health revamped on this campus and break down the stigma of reaching out. We need a healthier student body. And I think mental health is a huge component of that, and that's what's missing the most in terms of prioritization that this university has.
I really want to see an ASG that is working for its voters and not for themselves, because that's all they're doing.
We want to establish a platform for international students. International students make up almost 50% of this campus, yet get almost no influence. They have a hard time working with ASG to get their groups and stuff organized and to really assimilate on campus. And we're really looking to help fix that as well.
Oscar reform. That's something that's kind of floated around a lot. Ensuring that we have the most fair and effective judicial system here at Miami. I'm proud to say we just passed a bill through Student Senate in my committee that is the Presumption of Innocence bill.
4 of the 5 pairs of candidates running have prior ASG experience, and the majority of candidates are juniors. Candidates were required to get petitions with signatures from 150 Miami undergraduate students to be eligible for the election. The 2 slates with the highest percentage of the primary vote will move on to the general election on April 3rd and 4th.
Armstrong Student Center's East Wing is mixing tradition and innovation. The old basketball flooring from Withrow Court is being repurposed and will be the focal point for students and alumni when the second Armstrong installment opens in June. Associate Director of Armstrong, Lincoln Walburn, explains.
So for the Armstrong Student Center East Wing, we are taking the old Withrow Court and we reused it in our red zone, which is we're describing as a Buffalo Wild Wings without alcohol. It'll have 13 TVs, it'll have some billiard tables, air hockey tables, but the court is the center of the floor in 2 areas, as well as wrapped around one of the entry walls. And so kept the same basketball lines and just reused the floor to bring in that history. In addition to the floor, we also use bleachers, and the bleachers are our bar height tables for people that are doing billiards. They can set their drinks down. So it's a good use of the history that we have in this campus.
Withrow Court was built back in 1932 and was the hub of intramural activities until 1994 when the rec center was built. Both the floor and the bleachers were kept the way they were in Withrow. Many of the bleacher tables still have carvings on them from past students.
Changes are happening at a longtime uptown business. The city is requiring Miami Co-op Bookstore on High Street to remove the awning for safety reasons. The plans call for the demolition of the property to be replaced with mixed-use retail on the first floor. The top 3 floors will be residential. The property sold in June of 2015. The bottom floor will house Follett's Bookstore and 1 other commercial tenant. The commercial tenant has not been identified and no plan or design has been submitted to the city yet.
The upcoming demolition of the old Kramer Elementary will be bittersweet. Although students have already said their goodbyes, the recent auction is helping the building live on. Kramer Elementary's auction raised over $10,000. Nearly 200 bidders registered for the auction, which lasted 6.5 hours. $3,600 worth of classroom furniture bought at the auction will be sent to schools in Togo, a small country in Africa. The money raised will help fund projects such as installing blinds and fencing at the new elementary school. Some 4th grade classes are empty after the auction, but they still hold the goodbyes of students written on the walls.
There's a lot of memories in that building, and there were people that came through that day, I think, to perhaps say goodbye to a Kramer building that they may have spent their K through 5 years there, or their kids or their grandkids.
The old building is set to be demolished in the middle of March.
Coming up on Oxford Weekly News, Oxford is devoting a month to preserving its historical places.
Stay tuned, we'll be right back. The Oxford Historic and Architectural Preservation Commission is updating its inventory. This update is in preparation for Preservation Month, which occurs every May. There are currently hundreds of sites in Oxford that are considered historic landmarks by the Ohio Historic Society, including President Crawford's house. The commission has finished surveying the sites and houses south of High Street and hope to have the list of sites north of High Street completed by the end of May. The committee will also hold historical tours of Oxford throughout May.
Miami's Diversity Affairs Council is planning a unity march on March 4th. Students will march from Armstrong Student Center to Uptown Park. Those in attendance are asked to bring posters and flags.
Looking for more local news? This week on the Oxford Patch, a discussion on the relationship between body image and fat shaming in American culture, an update on the new mental health clinic in Oxford, and a look at what it takes to become a volunteer firefighter. Those stories and more at patch.com/Ohio/Miami University-Oxford.
That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sarah Muir.
And I'm Greta Morris. You can watch us on our YouTube channel, search Oxford Weekly News. You can also connect with us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Oxford Weekly News.